Today is Thursday, May 19. I'm Pastor Anthony, and this is Wilderness Wanderings. Today our text comes from Psalm 13. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I bear pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of death, and my enemy will say, I have prevailed. My foes will rejoice because I am shaken. But I trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord, because he has dealt bountifully with me. That's Psalm 13. There is a torrent of pain and suffering constantly battering our senses and burdening our hearts. It's in our lives, it's in our world. We can't engage meaningfully with every evil and ill we face, though. It would flood over us, overwhelming us again and again. Often it does, in fact. When city planners of the past decades would come across the not unrelated problems of unruly waters that would flow their banks every spring, they solved it by burying those streams and rivers. That was the case for the Shadok Creek that flows underground near, or maybe even under, our church's property. The landscape has now been flattened and made useful, but no one sees or hears the waters of that creek anymore, until they spill over the escarpment in the Shadok waterfall, and then just as quickly as they appeared, much of them are gone again, into another culvert. Slowly we come into awareness, though, of the fact that we human folk are somehow healthier when graced by the sound, sight, and even the touch of live, running water, no matter how unruly it may be. And not only us, but the ecosystem is likewise healthier when creeks, streams, and swamps are left alone to clean the water and provide habitat for a myriad of other creatures of God's creation. Nothing much lives or is brought to life, though, when a creek is banished to a culvert and its once carved creek bed is flattened to pavement. So it is with our emotional world and our experiences of grief and suffering. Like so many practical man versus nature solutions of the past decade, we've often buried this river of hurt, of grief, of pain, of suffering, painting on smiles over top, if necessary. But when we don't face the suffering that we experience, it doesn't get the chance to drive us to the ultimate questions of life, of death, and of God that are important to ask. Questions like, is God really in control? Is he really present? Or has he forgotten us? To look at suffering in the light of the day is to grapple with the foundations of our faith, and to cry out like David did, How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? If we don't confront suffering, we implicitly deny the hope offered by Christ in the face of it. On the other hand, if we accept suffering without question, we implicitly deny this unacceptable reality of the sin and evil and suffering in our world that Jesus came to save us from. Both of these are ways of shunting our suffering underground. So it's important to daylight the river of human suffering, our suffering, to look it in the face and turn it into prayer before God. That's lament. Prayers, questions, and cries that arise when deep suffering and deep faith meet, all offered to the God whose love never fails. That's what David does in Psalm 13. And it is only in this honest place of wrestling with both our suffering and our faith that we discover the deep places where the salvation we have in Jesus really meets the deep pain, suffering, sin, and evil of our lives. And that, being saved out of those places by the gracious action of God again and again, that is what can make our hearts to sing. So as you journey on, go with the blessing of this gracious God. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever He may send you. May He guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May He bring you home rejoicing at the wonders He has shown you. May He bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.